Well, it's Friday morning, a little bit after 10. That can only mean one thing. Well, it could mean many things depending on where you are and what you're doing. But here in the Dice and Dungeons workshop, well, good morning. Thanks for joining right at the very beginning. Really appreciate it. What it means here is that it's time for relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons. And as kind of a tradition, I need to waste, at least 10, maybe 15 minutes chatting about something or other before I actually start painting. Otherwise, it's not an official edition of not quite getting around to painting in a relaxing way with Dice and Dungeons. Yeah. Need the coffee this morning for a reason. Let's see, things are working. That's always a nice surprise, is that although this is not a sophisticated studio, it's just a workshop with a camera and a microphone, it does have some sophisticated hardware like a Stream Deck and sophisticated software like the music and so on, and sometimes there's updates and sometimes things don't work because they weren't shut down right or whatever, or I just mess up because it's morning and things like that happen. Hi, who? Yep, I will do a flip. I will do the flip with the thing that says paint on it. Tell you what, it says paint on one side and it doesn't say paint on the other. How about we'll do 6 flips, right? And if paint shows up more often than not paint, then I'll paint today. And if not paint shows up, then what? Let's find out. Well, that was off camera. So one paint. That was a paint. 2 paints. 2 to 1. 3 paints, 3 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 2. Okay. I guess I'll consider that to be, that could either be a win or a loss. It's hard to say, but. Oh, really? Yeah. I used to be, but basically, all we're doing here is I'm painting stuff anyway. And so I don't really have to do anything in terms of doing things other than what I would have been doing otherwise, which is painting minifigs or dungeon tiles or or on Wednesdays a submarine. The thing though that there's 2 challenges. One is paying attention, 3 among the many challenges. Right, that's how that goes, right? Like the appearance prize among the many. Anyway, these are the challenges. One challenge among the challenges is staying on camera. And in this case, it's this little gray dot here. That's going to be, after paint and stuff slops on here, I get marks that sort of tell me between the red and the gray. Okay, those are my highly specific markers to stay on camera, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. The other is actually painting, especially minifigs, and trying to figure out how to make them look decent because I'm not an artist like this guy. Some sort of ogre, beastie, demon thing. I saw a picture of it. It's just sort of green with highlights and it kind of calls for speed painting, but Nikki said, no, don't do the speed paint. Try to do a wash, try to make it look good. It's mostly, as long as you do a fun stream. No, there's a difference between just painting stuff and being an artist. For example, this last week, we were spending a lot of time painting ceilings and walls. Okay? Do you say, I am a wall painting artist, when all you do, I mean, not all, it was a lot of work, is make sure that the walls are the same color everywhere, and that color is the color of the paint that you're wanting to use. So no, not an artist. I am a painter, because I paint things. I'm doing pretty well. I got 5 more minutes before I have to really start painting. But as I was saying, some of the challenges are staying on screen. Another challenge is not knocking things over, at least things that could spill and make a huge mess. That's a challenge. Trying to make them look good, that's kind of a challenge. But one challenge is, even though there's really nice music playing in the background, is trying to carry on some sort of monologue about something. And I was doing really pretty well for about a year, I think, coming up with obscure things to chat about, like things that were going on when I was a kid growing up. But now I'm getting into repeat season, where I'm just saying the same things over and over. It's almost like I'm old and I repeat myself. There are some things that are intentionally repeated, like this explanations of what Dice and Dungeons really is and why the stream is happening, showing off some of our dungeon tiles, that kind of stuff. Those are intentionally repeated. Some things are unintentionally repeated because I don't remember that I said them before, and other things are just simply repeated because I have nothing else to talk about, so I just repeat something I talked about before. Oh, well, thank you, Leuven. Actually, what that means is if I express myself through painting, if I'm actually painting, I don't have to talk. Maybe there's that. Well, this thing, whatever it is kind of a beastie thing. I'm guessing that it's probably, its intelligence is probably right up there with Nines, our Tabaxi Bard. The pictures that I was shown, it's kind of weird. It's mostly green, but its face is red. So there's like this circular red face which clashes with the green. I'm not quite sure what that's about, but that's what it is. So most of this is just going to be like green with a wash on it. But then a fair amount of attention needs to be paid to its face. One part is its mouth. It's got these big protruding teeth, but inside the mouth it needs to be painted another color. So I'm going to somehow or other get really dark red paint inside its mouth, so it's going to get all over its teeth. It's just going to make a mess there. So that I can then paint the teeth white and they'll show up as fangs. They won't be pure white. They're going to be, I'm not even sure that I'll use ivory. I'm not sure I want them that light. I might end up using something like this bone white color, which is kind of a beige thing. And then if I'm feeling really ambitious, and I might even try to do some highlights with a little brush or something, just, because there's nothing else on this other than the base. It's got some nostrils and some eyeballs and pretty, maybe the ears. I'll make the ears, inside of the ears, a different color or something. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Well, I'm going to start, though, by painting the inside of the mouth, because that has to be painted and dried before I can paint the teeth. Okay, that's behind the teeth, so I need to do that. Probably... This brush might work. I don't want to use a really good brush because getting the paint in there, it's going to just mash the bristles up all over the place. And I don't mind getting it on the teeth, like I said, because those will get painted. It's just making sure that what's behind the teeth has paint on it. So somehow or other, I'll need to fill the time. I'm thinking maybe I can start today by talking about like 1950s kids shows. There's a bunch of those. They went from the 50s until the 60s. So I'll see if I can remember anything about them. But Leuven, when is your stream, and how often do you do it? I think one thing that helps me from being in a panic in doing this stream, other than it's, what is it, just painting and rattling on about nonsense, is that for me, it's pretty early. I just started to have a cup of coffee. I checked the email. That always takes a while, actually. Get out of junk email and have to delete all of that. Work, click, delete. This morning, I had to figure out how to scan a document with a new printer that I hadn't scanned on before. And that was kind of interesting, doing something before the stream. That was a little frustrating, but I got it done, and I sent it off to somebody who hopefully will be able to respond to it. If not, that'll be something more to do. But part of it is that, for me at least, this is early enough in the morning that I'm still pretty tired. Of course, at my age, being tired is just sort of like all the time. It's just what it is. It's just a question of whether you give in to being tired or not. And sometimes it really is nice to just give in to it and sleep in. So the skin of this guy, I'm going to use Goblin Green. That seems appropriate. This paint hasn't been used in a while. Oh, wow. Well, it was good to get those. And from what I've been reading, if the COVID shot hits you hard, then it means it's actually working. It's producing a really good immune response. So that's a good thing. I have to get my COVID shot yet. The pharmacy that we like to use doesn't have them this time around. So I'm going to have to go off and wait somewhere. Yeah, it is. It's a whole brand new strain. So yes, you have. It's a whole new variant, or it's addressing a whole new variant. So yeah, it's definitely want to get that. Probably. I kind of meant to do it yesterday, and then things just didn't happen. It was one of those things, one of those days when things didn't happen. Okay. Oh, the other challenge, among the many challenges, is that because I have trifocals, I can't focus up close with my glasses on, so I have to take being nearsighted, not farsighted like usual when one gets older. And when I do that, I've lost track already. Have you been counting how many challenges there are? Maybe I'll reiterate the challenges. They might not even be the same ones the second time around, but even though I'm nearsighted, which means I can see things without glasses close up, but not far away. Far away in this case being something like 15 inches, right? So I got this large screen, large print chat screen. Even that probably needs to be expanded. to make it even larger print. When folks get old, oftentimes the large print versions are for seeing up close. So you get large print books and large print newspapers. I need large print distance things like the chat screen on the computer's monitor that's like 3 feet away. Part of it too is that okay, I'm gonna put these on because I know what's happening here. What's happening is that it looks fine right now, but if I put these head magnifiers on, which I am going to use for the face detail later, I'm going to see that, yeah, exactly that. Exactly as I expected, that it looked like the paint had gotten back in there, but it really hadn't. Glad I used this brush because, as I expected, pushing it up through the teeth to get to the back is totally mangling the bristles on the brush. I should leave it the way it looks. It's like this huge, big, bloody mouth. Looks gruesome. It looks like it's mostly okay. Good enough. Going to need these for the next part, which is painting the body base coat. That I'm going to actually be able to use a fairly large brush. Not really huge, okay, because there's like it has to get into the toes and under the hands and fingers and everything. So I'm not going to use the biggest brush, but I can use a fairly large, soft bristled brush because there's a lot of surface area. What is going to happen, though, before I distracted myself with something else, I guess that's what helped keep the monologue going, is that I can start talking about something and just wander off, and then maybe remember to come back around to what I was originally talking about. Maybe not. Sometimes not. That's just part of the mystery. But what I was saying is that this has been setting in the... it's not been used for a long time, and they set fairly horizontal in the holder, the custom-made paint holder that Lexus made on our 3D printers, and you can see that actually it goes the other way, that the pigment is very much settled and separated from the solvent, and so this is going to require a lot of mixing. So you might as well get ready for like 4 minutes of vortex spinning. Maybe I won't talk. You can just enjoy the buzzing sound with the music playing in the background. Was that relaxing? Not really, but it is what it is. Yeah, it is good music. The composer is somebody named Nakarada. Credits in the credits, you can read about him. And we've gotten permission to, to use the music on our streams. And so that it appears in the background. But sometimes it's not working, and sometimes I can fix it if it's not working, and sometimes I can't. But almost always when it's working, it is very nice. And it's a pretty nice selection. It if you're on here for any length of time, it loops around, so you get the same tunes several times during the stream. But it is discovered early on that it's a nice thing to have music in the background. Yeah, this needs a lot of mixing. Sorry about that, but it just really needs a huge amount of stirring to get it after it sits there for a long time. Some of these colors I use all the time, and they stay fairly well mixed. Sometimes it's a color that hardly ever gets used. And then like this, it doesn't get mixed. So I can still see there's still some separation, especially up at the top here. So just keep buzzing it. So yeah, the challenges, among the many challenges, is reading the chat screen without my glasses on. Starting to stir. I wonder if I can make it bigger. I can't see the chat screen well enough to manipulate it with here I can make it go left and right, but that just changes what appears on the screen. That did. I just clicked on something inadvertently. We'll play with it some other time. Want to mess it up right in the middle of a stream like this. Well, it's not really the middle. Okay. It's near the beginning of the stream. So I don't want to mess it up this early in the stream. If I'm going to mess it up, I'll mess it up a little bit later. This brush is not a great brush, but it'll be pretty good, I think, for providing a base coat coverage. Like I said, the face, for some reason, in the pictures I saw, just this face is red. Weird, right? So after I get this green on, I'll pull out the scarlet red, which is kind of a nice universal dark red color. Not too bright. Still red enough. It's not like orangey or anything. It's just a good red. Okay, that looks like it mixed pretty well. Last time I used this, which was a long time ago, still was kind of swirly. And it's not perfect. You can still see it's not uniform color, but there it is. All right, so I'm going to start putting green on. There. Get some relaxing painting going here. And I haven't quite decided where. Paint the ears green. I might end up painting them a little bit different, but I'm thinking that the red part of the face is going to be more or less just in front of its ears and then under its chin like this. There's a little bit of a demarcation line. Hard to see, but under magnification it might show up. That I might be able to use to guide me as I paint its face red. We'll rotate this several times in different directions, to make sure that as much as is possible, I get it all covered. It has been known that, applying a base coat like this is pretty straightforward, you would think, but then come back to it a little bit later, putting a wash at a detail or something, and then discover that there are like the whole half of an arm got missed or something. Handy dandy rotating thing here that lets me rotate it and look at it from different directions. So this is going to go pretty quickly. There's an upside and a downside to that. The upside to that is that it goes pretty quickly, and you get to see things. The downside is that I have to figure out something else to do. The other model, that the minifig that I can be working on, is a Centaur. So I said, how should this Centaur be painted? It's like, well, Nikki did one before. Why don't you just sort of, follow that? And I think that was pretty good advice, except that I can't find what she did. So it's like, yeah, do it kind of like that one that I can't find. Do it wrong, it would be, well, we told you to make it look like the other one. I said, well, yeah, I did, but I couldn't find it, so I had to make it look like I imagined it looked. Anyway, some sort of excuse. But the reality is that I could not find it, that Nicole did. And because of that, I can't make the Centaur look like that, except maybe by accident. I mean, it could be a weird coincidence where it turns out to look just like the one I couldn't find anyway. It's not real likely, the odds are against it, but there are, we don't have an infinite number of colors of paint, so the number of variations tens of millions, so there's actually a chance that I could pick it by just random chance. Clothes, I don't even have to worry about like painting a loincloth or bag or something like that. It's just green. It's not drying real quickly, so you can't really see the color it's going to be yet. It gets a little darker as it dries, and it gets less glossy. Now, there's a whole bunch of green paint on this guy. There we go. And a big mess on the inside of the mouth. See any major chunks that are unpainted. They take some time and just paint the toenails something else, like a gray or something. Since they're printed on there, I might as well let them show up. Well, I can't do terribly much more on this until the green dries, and it looks like it's taking its time to do that. Because if I painted the face red right now, it would just blend into the green and, maybe make a really nice kind of brownish goopy color, but that isn't what I was hoping to accomplish. So that is that. So either we need to just sit here together and watch paint dry, occasionally on relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons, it becomes a relaxing watch paint dry with Dyson Dungeons. Or I could do some base coating on the Centaur. So the Centaur, let's see if I can find some nice browns. And I want to paint the tail a darker color of brown. Not a terribly complicated model. Let me show it to you in just a bit after I get the paint out of this brush. Yeah, it isn't terribly complicated. You know, there's a little whatever they call it, vembraces or something, some sort of armor right here on the and its forearms. They're not really forearms, there's only two. There's two arms. On its two arms, there's these little things. Those would be metallic. You know, the spear, but that's a spearhead, and a shaft, and that's just whatever. The armor on the horse's back is pretty simple. I can paint that a nice metallic color. There's detail on the face. You know, maybe a contrasting color down here on the hoof. I might do those the same color as the tail. So what I think what I might do with this then is paint the horse body color. Is that like a strap? It's like a reddish brown, I think, would be nice. Actually, the color I would like to make it is this, the same as the floor. And this is a smoky ink, which is a really nice ink that gives it a luscious, kind of rich look. I can talk about these later. I can't remember what the base color is, though. It can't be too terribly dark. So I'm going to, if I can find yeah, actually it's right here. So I'm going to paint the horse to look like that. Flat Earth. Okay, yeah. I wouldn't have picked that because it's a very light color. But when the wash goes on it is, I mean, if you saw the difference between this washed and unwashed, it would be pretty startling. But I think that would be a really nice color for the body of the horse. And then the tail, and make the tail just a little bit darker than that. And the fur along the hoofs. Okay. And then the armor, I think, can just be like dark aluminum or chainmail silver or something with a black wash on it. Nothing terribly complicated. I think its hair, I think its hair should match the tail, right? Does that make sense that would be that? If there's any like major printing flaws. There's one on the bottom of the hand here. There's just some extra plastic. And that I would like to take off, but I need to be really careful because the rosin plastic that's used for these models is fairly brittle. And I have, in fact, broken stuff by just trying to scrape off little filaments. In this case, I have actually broken off the tip of the spear, and I had to put that back on. I broke that off, not by trying to do something like this, but I broke it off by reaching over it and knocking it down. It's another challenge. So if you're keeping track of challenges, one of the challenges is reaching across other things and not knocking things down and breaking stuff. That challenge could be addressed by not having huge clutter on your one's workbench, okay? By avoiding the clutter. Because if there isn't stuff to reach over, because maybe you put it away, you know, when you're done with it, put it away instead of just setting it down and letting it pile up. So I could avoid that challenge by just keeping my work surface clean and clear. But I haven't done that, and so that challenge remains periodically when I reached over. There's something else on here that I saw, but now I don't see where it was. Okay. This is okay. So right down here, you can see little pieces of the hoop showing underneath the kind of hair here and here. But they're going to be a little bit difficult to paint. I think I might do those first. Okay. And then I can paint down to them rather than trying to get those little bits of paint in there after the rest of it is painted. So there's that. Yeah, this will be, you know, a little bit challenging to paint, but not too bad. I think the hoofs, no, they should be a little bit shiny, but not terribly shiny. So I'm just going to use the regular, you know, this is really fragile. I have to not be bumping it. And I just almost bumped it again. Yeah, here it is. This is a really good deep black. I might make this a little fancy, like I might paint the shaft of the spear. I might just paint that really deep dark red, like the inside of the mouth here, you know, just so that there's something that pops out a little bit other than the metallics that be painted on the armor. And then maybe, you know, there's some ridges on the armor, maybe those I could try to emphasize those with a color, just the edges, you know, because it's kind of plated like that. It would be kind of fun to have those painted the dark red too, to match that, just so that there's a little color going through this. That's, you know, I mean, if it doesn't work, then it's easy enough to just let the paint dry and paint over it with the metallic that I'm going to be using for the arm. I'm doing here. Yeah. Is plug into the is a little underneath the fuzzy fur there, and so I want to paint those because they show. And painting these first is I can get it down on the base, because the base will be painted a different color later. And I can even get it up onto the fuzzy fur a little bit. I don't have to worry too much about that being a little messy, because that's going to get painted over too. That's why I'm doing it first. An artistic way is painting the hard to get to spots first, and then painting down to them a little bit later. Raised surface, which is easier to work with than the kind of hidden surface here. Definitely going to have something to eat during break. I feel blood sugar plummeting here. Okay, so after I get these hooves done, I'm going to have to put my head magnifiers on to paint the horsehair that comes down over the hooves, though, in order to really effectively see where the edges are. It's hard to do that. That's what it's for. Okay, so there. Yet more painting done. Mixing painting with dice and dungeons as usual. On Monday, I'll probably finish this ogre guy today, assuming that the paint is still wet. The green is still a little wet, so I can't paint the red of its face yet. Assuming that I'll be able to finish the ogre-ish kind of thing, whatever it is, today. I may or may not. I don't know how far I'll get on the Centaur. Looking like I'm missing a spot, but I don't think I am. It's like a reflection of the red paint. The wet paint is shiny. Okay, well, now it's got black hoops. It's painting. There. Painting has been done. The Centaur. So it looks like the green is drying pretty well, all except in one spot where I really want it to be very dry, which is at the top of the head there, because that's going to get this somehow or other. There'll be a boundary here, red, including up at the top. That to dry out a little bit more. But I can base coat the horse body though while I'm waiting for that to dry. Do that. There's a fairly large amount of it, so I can go back to this brush that I used before, and I can do this because there's this little hair between the right there above the hoofs that'll be painted the same color as the tail. so the brown doesn't touch the black. I don't have to worry about the black drying before I move it in here. Yeah, so let me do that. I haven't used this in a bit, so give this a good stir too. Have suggested using the Crusader Skin speed paint. Oh, okay. We'll look at this before there's a potential flaw in the plastic that's going to be hard to get off. I need to see whether it's really that or not. It might look bad. It might not look very good. It's just painted. Yeah, you can see it. There's just this blob here. That was the horse butt. The blob right there. It is not part of the armor or the hand. You know, it doesn't show up there. So I'm going to try to remove that. To use a file so that I can just flaking off. I want to fix this before I get too much further along. I have to just get over there and get a little needle file. Be right back. The needle files. I was using them on Submarine Wednesday. Oh, them. There's like 4 of them, 4 or 5. Okay. I don't have to fix this right away. I just need to remember to fix it before I paint the hand. I'm just going to let this go, and then when it comes time for the break, instead of me wandering around in the background going, I wonder where I put those, I wonder where I put those, which is what I would be doing, I am going to go ahead and paint the horse body color. Then I'll come back and find the needle files and clean that up before I paint that. Anyway, as I was saying before, I discovered what that was, remembered what it was, the little flaw there, is suggested that I use the speed paint on the body of the Centaur, but the problem is that there's several kinds of speed paint, and the kind that we have liquefies again. It basically dissolves in any paint that I paint over it. Okay, so if I were to try to paint the eyes or the hair or something and got paint on the speed paint, then it would dissolve and it would be messy. So I won't. I'm not going to do that. So instead, I'll pick a decent base coat color and then use a wash on it. Probably just like a light brown or a dark brown wash. So this isn't going to look like a very good base color. It's going to be quite light, you know, not very rich looking at all. But as you saw when I showed you the floor tiles, smoky ink goes on it. It gets really rich, kind of reddish brown color. I'm going to call this then a chestnut horse. It's not called that because the horse eats chestnuts or because the horse is a chestnut. It's just the color of the chestnut. It's always fun to take things more literally, you know. When you say something like, oh, it's a chestnut horse, does it mean it's made out of chestnuts? Really? How can a horse be made out of chestnuts? I guess, you know, if you wanted to, you could say, well, that is a horse that has horsehair that is the color of chestnut. It's a lot more words, but it doesn't lead to, you know, people doing like I did, being silly about taking it literally and saying, that's not a chestnut horse, that's just a horse. It's a flesh and blood horse. Never seen a chestnut horse. Have you ever seen it? No. Of course you haven't. Because horses aren't made out of chestnuts. You could probably shortcut a little bit and say that it's a horse that is the color of chestnuts without having to specify that it's the horsehair. That's the color of chestnuts, I suppose. You know, that would be a shortcut that's still fairly unambiguous, right? Could do that. But this isn't going to be a chestnut horse. This is going to be, and it's not a horse at all, it's a centaur. So I need to be, but the horse part of the centaur is going to be chestnut colored. At least that's the intent. So when you can see when it dries, like this is drying very quickly, it's definitely not chestnut colored. But it will be once it's washed. It looks like the ogre green, or goblin green, or whatever it was. Goblin green is drying on the other guy, and I will be able to paint the red oval of its face, while this brown, there's a lot of it, is drying on the centaur. Done, this will dry, and then I will likely paint the other brown color, the brown that I'm going to be using for the tail and the hair around the hooves. That's going to end up being washed the same wash color, exactly the same, which will make that easy, right? Just get the wash over all of it. Okay, so this armor, some parts of this armor are going to be a little challenging. Another challenge, this is a challenge day. The challenge is going to be getting the paint in there without getting it on everything else. Just kind of hard to reach areas here. Using the base coat on here, you can see more easily where the armor is. And then I have to, at some point, just make a decision about how fancy I want that. There's a couple of things I can do. Because there's different bands on it, sometimes I get two different like two very similar but slightly different shades of the metallic. So one is just a little bit darker than the other. And then the banding shows up better than if I just painted it all uniform silvery color. I might do that. I think I will do that. I'm not going to make them highly contrasted. Like I'm not going to go with chrome and steel, where one is really light and bright and shiny, and the other one is dark. I might look good. Just there's different colors of metallics that I've got, basically made for airplane models where control surfaces might have, be made out of fabric and so have a different color and reflectivity than the rest of it. And I'll probably go with something like 2 shades apart, like aluminium and dark aluminium, something like that, and just see how that works. Okay, I didn't put this on one of those holder things because it's so big. It doesn't necessarily stay on. It's pretty heavy. Checking to see if I've missed any big spot, like back of a leg or something. So it's not a bad color, in and of itself, but it will nicely brighten up. Okay. These I knew they had to be there. The straps that are holding on the armor, there's one here and one here, and they really didn't show up until I base coated this. They're very hard to see. On this side, they're hardly raised at all. So I want to paint those, and I'm going to use that dark red that I've talked about. I'm going to be using for the shaft on spear. I'm going to use that for these straps. Okay. You probably can hardly see them. They're very hard to see. And I want to paint those before I do any washing. In fact, I might, because I'm going to be washing this, I want to paint them a lighter red. Because I'm going to wash right over them. But I need to paint those before I go too much further, because almost inevitably there will be spillover, and I'll have to do touch up again. And then the other thing is, like, there's this spot here that was a flaw in the mold, needed to come off. Like a big wart on its leg. A little more warty than I would like it to be. Yeah, so that's not too bad. I'm going to paint after this dries, I'll probably paint the straps next. Just because that's going to require, it's just hard to get it right. Even though it's a raised surface, I might do that. There's an upside and a downside to this as well. I've got a very, very fine tipped red felt point, very fine felt-tipped pen that is red that I've used for some detailing on the submarine. And I probably would have better control, but the problem with that is that the ink dissolves in the paint. I've had that happen where I, got it a little bit off over the edge, and then I tried to touch it up with the paint and it just dissolved the ink. Whereas if I use the red paint, it'll just be painted over. So these little straps, yeah. So I want to use this black red, which is the color of the inside of its mouth, okay? I want that to be the color of the shaft, and if I am able to get edging on the armor, if I'm able to pull that off at all, I want it to be that color, all right? But if I use that color down here on these straps, when I put the wash on it, it might just sort of disappear. So I'm thinking of using the scarlet red, which is the color I'm going to use for the face of this guy, for the straps, because then when it's washed, it'll look really close to the other color. I'm saying that like that's really what's going to happen. What I really mean is that that's what I'm going to try to make happen. So the scarlet red is the next color anyway. That's going to be the color of the oval face of this guy and the color of the straps that are holding on the Centaur. For both of those, I will definitely need the head magnifier and the itty bittiest brush that I have, which is this, which is a half worn out brush. Most of the bristles are gone. It's the second one I've worn out since I've been doing relaxing painting. I have another one that hasn't been started yet, and once I start that one, I'll probably order 2 more. I always have at least one on here. Light attempt to focus, find the focus spot. Anyway, we'll start painting here. If it goes badly, then I'll have to paint it, back and forth iteration with the green. Delineation here above the eyes. And then make an effort to be symmetric, having the same line on the other side. Get the line here. Really don't understand this color pattern. And I don't understand why in the pictures its face was red. Because it is, that's what it'll be. At least that's the way it looked on the picture. If not, well, then this will just be wrong. At least it's symmetric. No, got the nostrils and the eyes. Got big teeth. Looks like it's a tongue down there, but it's got big teeth on the top. Those will show nicely. How this will go. I'm going to paint the inside of the ears here. It's red. Just a little triangle kind of thing there. On the inside of the ear, and then I'll see if I can get the same on the other side. Just, yeah. Just to do it. There, that looks pretty doofus. This whole guy looks pretty doofus. I think I got the line right on its face. Some teeth. Days later. Got a little bit of red here on the green. I should fix that right away. There, I think there's still a little green paint left. Just right on the tip of the ear. There. There it is. Kind of Christmassy, don't you think? There you go. Kind of red and green like that. For some reason. We'll call it the Christmas ogre. So it'll be that. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can paint these straps. On this side, they're not very well defined at all, so I'm going to do the hard side first. would have been easier if I hadn't noticed that these were there. You know, it's all part of detail painting. It should be done. I should do it on stream like this. And it'll either come out looking okay or not. A little wider than I wanted. But I'm going to say that that's okay, because otherwise it'd be really hard to see them. The music is playing because, just I have to really kind of pay attention to what's going on here when I do little stuff like this. I might do a little brown touch up. It's just that the line got a little ragged. The surface is uneven. On this side, it's raised up a little better. So theoretically, it should be a lot easier to paint. So I can just put the paint on the raised surface and not on the lower surface below it. That's the theory. Two things here I might consider while I'm at it. There's just a lot of paint here. Error. To the surface to be painted. It's bashing it into a place I don't want it. Okay, so if I don't paint the whole thing, at least I'm going to paint this spot here where there's a junction between the two colors. Getting these right is always... Thing is, you know, you look at it from one angle and it looks just fine. You look at it from the other and it's not. I look at it from this angle, there's spots, brown spots on the horse that never got painted. In the most obvious places too. And right on the top. And I thought I was spreading the paint pretty well. The way this needs to work, so I need to get a blob of paint on here and then push it up to where I'm... Dog thinks that she's like a champion watchdog of some sort. Just barking like that. No doubt protecting us from some truck that's driving along on the driveway, went on the road. Yeah, that was okay. That made a mess. So I have to get the brown paint out anyway to do some touch up around the straps there. Well, you know, okay. This isn't the color I was going to use on the it's not the color I was going to use on the shaft of the spear. So I don't know why I was doing that. I really don't. I forgot. What a surprise. Forgetting something. Yeah, this was going to be this much darker red. And it will be, but not now. What happened here is I'm probably going to use the fine felt tipped pen to paint the nostrils and the eyes. I don't know what the eye, maybe not. The eye color, the nostrils will just be black and the teeth are going to be like a bone white color because I don't want them gleaming white. But I think the eyes should be, I've done yellow eyes. Like on these little imp things, the yellow eyes look pretty good. I might just make them yellow. Anyway, this guy, there's major places that need touching up with the brown. And I'll do that. I touch up the straps here. The next thing to be painted on this is going to be the hair on the hooves and the tail. And then I'm just seeing spots that needed to be painted brown that just the brown paint didn't get on them. No matter how much I spread it around. But you know, there'll be brown touch-up in places anyway. I'm going to give this a go here and put little yellow dots on for eyes. See how that goes. There'll probably be some red touching up. And the eyes and the nose and the teeth. seems to be dry enough that I can see if I can get these little dots on. Give it beady yellow eyes. Yeah, they're way bigger than they should be, so I'm just going to put it in here and then get the red paint out. See, this one is more like it should be. So I do the red touch up. This one will become smaller. Just going to use the pen to do the nostrils. But then I remembered something. What I remembered was that the ink dissolves. The paint dissolves the ink. So I'm just going to use little dots of black paint. Nostrils, and then there will be inevitable touch-up coming the other direction with the red again. This dries. Just like the eyes didn't go very well. This may or may not go well. Yeah, it's okay, but not really good. There's a pretty decent raised surface around it, so I think I can get the touch-up done okay. Okay, well, there's that. So since I'm messing around with and messing up the ogre guy face, paint everywhere here. Might as well do the teeth, right? There's very likely to be some touch up around the teeth as well as everything is the eyes and the nostrils. Well, you can see how the face is not, especially the eye, the left eye did not go terribly well. Brushing his teeth. You want to just catch the tops of them. Yeah, I got it on the lip there a little bit. And it looks like there's little bitty teeth on the bottom here. Let's see if I can get those. Okay. Well, I have to say, the teeth actually came out pretty well. Not too bad at all. There's a little bit of that's that I think around the lip there. Teeth came out better than the eyes did, that's for sure. This is a chance to look around since I have to do a spot that I missed with the green. I'm going to just see if there's some of this paint that's still wet enough. You know, rotation here. Make sure that the base coat is base coated. I did pretty well on this guy, certainly compared to the horse. And the horse part of the Centaur, I didn't do that very well at all. But this came out okay. Yeah, I just need to fix the eyes and the nose. And then body wash the body. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of a chance with the red-brown color when I put it on the Centaur body, because I have to do some retouching with the base coat, the flat earth brown anyway, and so I'm going to use just a slightly bigger brush than I would ordinarily use for that, because it's got like contact points with the black. But I think that since it's a raised surface, that a brush like this, but not that one because it's all chewed up. Looking for one that has a coherent point. Okay, but I might just use this one. Oh my. What happened there? This coherent pointiness of the bristles became incoherent. It's like I mushed it on the way into the cover. I'm going to use this. I've used this off and on with success for the hair down here. I'll use a little bit bigger brush. And I might just do that around the edges here and here, and then use a bigger brush to fill in the tail. I said I was going to use the same color on the hair here. And I probably I want red brown. Flat brown, that's too dark. Tell me it's not here. Got it. There has been progress. Look, it's a messed up face. It needs to be fixed. And I got three colors on the Centaur so far. And I'm just piling all sorts of stuff up here in the way on the work surface so that, you know, I can bump into it and it can bump into me and just mess things up. That until this hasn't been used in a while and that the paint there's a buildup in the cap. Yeah. Whoa, that doesn't look good at all. That needs some more shaking. Sometimes these paints just don't get used for a while. Use them all the time and then don't. Pigment's badly settled. When this is mixed up well, which hopefully it will be, it looks like melted chocolate. Like melted milk chocolate. It's really pretty nice. See if it looks like it should look now. Doesn't look like it should look. Well, let's see what it looks like when it dries. I remember it just being much darker. Get a toothpick and stir from the bottom. Paint just doesn't look right. That is kind of yellowish. Instead of, yeah, it's getting better. The pigment must have really settled badly over the many, many days, maybe months since I used this last. Going on there, but anyway, it's stirred up more. I'm not going to use that. Let's do Let's do some painting on the, where's this hooves here, and see how this ends up looking when it dries. I was thinking it's not. Hold on. I'm going to mix this one up and see before I go much further. That paint just does not look like the right color. We just need to toss it. I mean, look, it is not, it's not the same at all. I do not know what's going on with this, but it is not red-brown. I think I've got one of the little BB paint stirring things in there. I'll probably pull that out and then just toss that paint. It's just really bad. I'm really not sure. Well, the paint managed to get so not the right color. Other than just, you know, maybe it's just, that's what happens. It ages badly. Could be. So I was going to talk about 1950s kids shows, 50s and 60s. I think mainly yeah, I mean that somewhere in that date range. We had a number of them. Kept us entertained in the morning, after school. Let's see how many I can remember. There was, of course, the Mickey Mouse Club. We all know the theme song to that. Learned how to spell at the same time. M-I-C-K-E-Y. M-O-U-S-E. Learned how to spell Mickey Mouse before we could even spell anything. Hardly even knew what the letters were, right? We could spell Mickey Mouse. Theme song, and then And there was always the Donald Duck part. Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. This Donald Duck tried to get something, and then of course, where Donald always got like blown up or gonged or in some way injured, no doubt. Always like physically injured. Of course, cartoon characters, I guess, never really got hurt. But they weren't very nice to Donald Duck. Granted, it was Mickey's show, so I guess, Mickey got billing, and so was trying to get in on it when it wasn't their show. That wasn't the right thing to do either. I'm not quite sure what moral lesson we were all supposed to be learning when we were little kids, watching Donald Duck try to get in on Mickey's show and then usually being severely punished. I guess the lesson we learned is that it's great fun trying to get in on somebody else's show, but something bad will happen to you if you do. And you won't succeed, because Donald really never succeeded in getting in on the Mickey Mouse show. Yep. So there was Mickey Mouse. There was Captain Kangaroo. Captain Kangaroo was a lot gentler. There wasn't anybody trying to get in on Captain Kangaroo's show and then getting blown up or gonged or something because they were trying to do that. What were some of them that were? There was Romper Room and Ding Dong School, which were not the same things. I talked about the compare and contrast of Romper Room and Ding Dong School in the past. I might do that again after break if there's, a need to talk about something and that comes up. The presentation was different. You can tell that from the name. And Romper Room is just a lot lighter and more playful than Ding Dong School. Name of the show, there was one, Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop. Sherry Lewis was a ventriloquist, and Lamb Chop was basically a sock puppet. Yeah, good talking. Good enunciation of words. It's kind of a cute show. It was always a local production. I think they were all local, not national. Bozo the Clown Show. I think that was about whether Bozo the Clown was like a franchise or something. Local stations could get in on it. But I know they were local because there were ways for local kids to get on the show. Yeah. There were the standard cartoons like Rocky and Bullwinkle. Focus on the really early ones. Sidekick's name, Mr. Green Jeans. We didn't have color TV then, So they said Mr. Green Jeans, but never really knew whether or not for sure the jeans were green. just have to stay there. So kind of took it on faith that the genes might have been green, but maybe they weren't. Sort of giant bear on Captain Kangaroo. I seem to remember that there was this, a guy in a bear suit, but it wasn't really a bear. It had this big, round nose. It was bear-like, not bear-light, but sort of bear-like. Dancing Bear. That's what it was. The name was Dancing Bear. I do not recall really seeing the bear dance. If I have that right, I might not be remembering it right. I doubt very much that there's anybody in the stream with the correct demographic to remember if that's right, but you could look it up on the internets. Rocky and Bull. Yeah, in Lowell. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I did play that. I didn't do very well. I used to have pretty good pinball skills. But, reaction time just disappears. That's why, for example, I cannot play first-person shooter games. Just can't. I mean, I can play them, but mostly I'm just... my character just sort of lays there dead. Hard video game death, anyway. I think I'll last like 15, maybe 30 seconds before my character is redlined and flatlined, I guess, whatever. No longer active in the game. It just happens. So, because of reaction time. So, having used to be good at pinball, just not quite as much anymore as I used to be. But just painting the contact points here with this brush, and then I'm going to use a larger brush to finish the tail. Getting too much on. Huge difference in color between this and the body color, but there's enough there so that you can see it's not the same. Especially there where I bumped into it. Clean this off and we get a different brush to finish the tail. We need to probably do an alcohol bath on this. This brush holds out the paint. You're not good at the pinballs, but you're still young enough to have reaction time. The idea is to hit the flipper button before the ball goes past the flipper. It's that simple. But it gets more and more complicated because, then you're supposed to not just hit the flipper button to keep the ball from going out of play, but you're supposed to be able to like aim it and hit different targets at different times. And amps sequentially, and other highly skilled kind of maneuver things that require eye-hand coordination at a pretty high level. I used to be really good at the original Jurassic Park pinball machine. I used to play that quite a bit, and I got fairly good at it. I could feed T-Rex. I think I got at least one time, not all in the same play, but over, many hundreds of games, all of the bonus events at least once. Kind of a fun game. To feed T-Rex, there was a T-Rex head that if you got the ball into this little well at the base of the head would come down and the jaws would close and pick up your ball and go snap, 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 like doing yum yum kind of things, nom nom. It was kind of fun to watch that. Sometimes it didn't work, like the jaws didn't close around the ball, and it started snapping its jaws shut. Like it was swallowing your ball, but it didn't have your ball. And the ball was floating around the place. But it oftentimes worked. Beep roaring sound. The sound effects were pretty good, and it had the original Jurassic Park music in the background. Be little dialogue things, Dino DNA. When you hit the DNA, the Mr. DNA spot, the guy who goes, "They should all be destroyed." There was that in it too. It was a fun game, and I actually got pretty good at it. Okay, so the tail, you can see that, it's a slightly darker color. I didn't want it real dark, but I wanted it a little bit contrasted. When it's washed, we'll see how that goes. I could have used a really dark brown, but I think that would have been distracting. Okay, this needs the flat earth. There's just touching up all over the place. And I think before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and paint the armor and the shaft of the spear before I bother with a light brown touch-up on the body, because those other colors will almost certainly require more touching up. So the touch-up with the flat earth is probably the last thing we'll do on the body of the Centaur. This jar of paint is just worthless. I don't even know what color it will turn out to be if I paint with it. Maybe I'll just I'll do this. This brush, which isn't quite clean yet. I'm just going to take some of this and splot it on here and see what color it looks like once it dries, because it's definitely not the same color as the red brown from the red brown bottle. Get some of the original red brown out too, just to show them side by side to see what I'm dealing with. No, no. I mean, it might be an okay color. I might save it. Just, because it'll be a different color. And it might be a brown that we can use for something rather than tossing it out. But it's definitely not that. Brown. Looks like it's time for a break soon. Okay. Let me turn these off and look up and put my regular glasses on and just do a summary of what has been done so far. I've actually gotten some painting done, non-relaxing painting. That's always kind of a nice thing. Not always happening. After break, after I destroy the tip of this brush once again, you think that given how small this is and how large this is, that it'd be possible to do that without mashing it, but all right. I have accomplished so far some things. I've base coated the ogre thing. I've painted the face, but it needs some touch-ups so that the eyes are more symmetric and the nostrils aren't all over the place. And then what this will need is a brown wash. I'm just going to do dark brown on it, okay? And then this will be, then I need to paint the base. I'll paint it, I don't know. I might just paint it gray. I'm tempted to paint it brown, like this color. Maybe the color that, who knows what color this is really supposed to be. Maybe I'll use that on the base. But I think I'll see how it looks when it's washed and how brown it is and whether the brown base would work okay. I don't know why its face is red, but the picture I saw said it was red, so this is how this is. And then I started working on the Centaur. I base coated the horse body, which will need a fair amount of touching up after I paint the shaft on this and do some painting on the armor. I'm going to paint these kind of a darkish aluminum color. I'm tempted, the steel is really dark. It might look good with the armor dark colored. So I might do steel and either aluminum or dark. Yeah. It depends on, if I want to do banding on the armor between dark and light, I just do these two different colors just to do it. And then do that. After I do that, then I'll do the shaft on the spear. Do the brown touch-up. Yeah, kind of in that order. So when I come back on the Centaur, I'm going to start by painting the armor. And I'm going to paint it two different colors of metallic, kind of alternating, so that the banding shows. And then I'm going to paint the spear shaft, and then do the brown touch-up. And before I go ahead and paint the body, I might just go ahead and do the wash on the horse body, because it looks good. No, I'm not doing hot pink. No, not on the Centaur. And on this guy, I need to touch up the face and then do a brown wash. I'm not sure what order I'm going to be doing it in all of these, but we'll see. I might finish this guy first just to get it done. or no. I'm going to paint the Centaur armor first to let that dry before I start painting some of the other bits, and then I'll wash this. Okay, but I am going to take a break because I do need to take a break, and I will be back. I'm going to try to take a shorter one today. I usually take really long breaks, and that's not well. And then I'm going to clean the top of this bottle so that I can get the screw cap back on it again, because it's just, yeah, a mess. That's always kind of a fun thing to do, is try to get the dried paint off without getting it into the bottle or spilling it. But you can see that this color is not that color. That's what it's supposed to be, and that's what it is. And I don't know how that happened, but it'll be fine on the base of this guy. Okay. I do need to take a break, so I am going to take a break. I will be back, I hope, 25 to 30 minutes from now, and continue working on these guys. Thanks so much for joining in so far, and relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons, and see you in a bit. Well, back from break, kind of on time again. About that. So for those of you who ever watch any of the episodes of our Dungeons and Dragons campaign, Dice and Dungeons presents Dungeons and Dragons with a live chat stream 3 Sundays a month at 2 o'clock Eastern time. And if you can't catch it then, you can listen to it as a podcast or watch it on YouTube. Please do that. Anyway, if you have any familiarity with it at all, you know that our characters, not the players, but our characters spend an awful lot of time looking for and eating food, but we don't do that as players, and I'm told there are 2 reasons for that. But the primary reason is that the microphones would pick up all sorts of annoying chewing sounds. Well, there was all sorts of stuff to do on break, and I brought a snack. So if anyone's listening in, let me know if you're getting annoying chewing sounds or not. And if there are annoying chewing sounds, then I'll stop chewing. And save the snack for later, but I'm trying to get a little bit of calories and protein there. Take care of this guy's face first. I wasn't sure in what order I was going to do things, but there's a lot of things to do, so as far as the ogre-ish kind of thing goes, some tiny little touch-up spots around the eyes and the nostrils. And I thought I'd just do those first and get that over with. Hopefully it'll go well. I'm trying to get the eyes to be symmetric here. So it means making the left eye a little bit smaller. And then touching up around the raised area. Nostrils. The music still playing. Let's see if I can see the bar. Nope, that's good. I mean, it's good that the music is still playing. That's not too bad. Still rudeness at the top of the nostril here. And it was, that spot there. Just on the inside of the mouth where some of the tooth color went. Yeah. I think the face looks okay. Focuses. I don't know if I can get it to focus or not. I can't tell if it's focused because I don't have my glasses on, so even if it is focused, it's just fuzzy. So before break, I was talking about 1950s and 60s before and after school kids shows, and you got Captain Kangaroo and you got Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop. I'm talking about the live shows, not the cartoons. Mickey Mouse Club. Ding Dong School and Romper Room. I think I'm going to go ahead and wash this guy right now. Let's get it done. And then it'll be practically finished. I'm just using a dark brown wash. I wash it all over this thing. And try to get it to collect, in the body contours. So instead of, this really nice green, it'll be probably kind of splotchy. Intentionally, it'll look a little dirty and muddy and that kind of thing. I'm going to use this fat brush here. Not the biggest brush, but not a teeny one either. This is not the wash I'm going to use on the Centaur. That is smoky ink, which is much redder. This is just brown. Just start here and just mush it all over it. So I want to make sure I get it on all the surfaces so that there aren't any just silly looking bright spots. 10 times more wash than we need. There, that's kind of what I want to have happen, is that it gets into the crevices, the folds, and highlights the body structure and the contours that are put into the model. But it makes it a different color, okay? And I think this kind of brownish, mottled kind of thing, it certainly looks better than the bright green. But the green was a good base coat color. Puddle in the low areas, but I don't want it to just look streaky. It's just too heavy. And I can let this kind of dry and then decide if I want to do, Nikki would say do highlights. I can't do that. I just have never been able to figure out how to do highlights on these kinds of things. But I can decide whether I want any of this stuff to be any heavier in any places or not. Base of the knuckles here. Oh yeah, I was going to paint the toenails, wasn't I? I suppose I can still do that. This came out okay here. It's puddling up pretty nicely there. Not too bad on the back. I think it's looking okay. I mean, as much as any of this can look okay at all. Got certainly a nice bright red face. I'll just check to make sure I didn't miss any obvious spots. Then I'll go back to the horse, of course. One green red face thing, whatever it is. It is what it is. Set that aside and then paint the base after that dries a little bit. The washes sometimes take a fairly long time to dry. Okay, I said I was going to be painting the armor and then the shaft and then doing a whole lot of brown touch-up. Yeah, so try this brush again. I've had a little bit of luck with it today. Start with the steel, the really dark color. You don't want the armor to look real bright. And the steel is, you know, very, very metallic. There's no mistaking that it's a metallic. It's a fairly dark color. And I think that would be a good base color, and then I can decide whether dark aluminum is too dark or whether I need to go to like dura-aluminum, slightly lighter one. I want the banding to show, but I don't want it to be like, I want it to be subtle, so you can like see it in just certain lights, that kind of thing. To be kind of close together. Okay. Start with this one here in the middle. These metallics are really, they're designed for airbrushes, so they're very liquid, right? Thin, very thin, and they spread nicely, so that not very much goes a long way. Then I have way too much paint there in it's like a belt, kind of. It's raised up around the figure. I'm going to make sure the metallic gets down in there. Have a lot of solvent in them. They also tend to dry pretty fast. It's like this front part, so that'll be lighter on the top and the bottom. And then this band here is a dark color. Basis of how I selected these, it'll be much more of the dark light color than the dark color. I mean, that's okay, I'm just noticing that. Paint is applied. And then I guess right at the back here, I'm going every other one. This is the other one. That's the every, and this is the other. There's enough paint there to paint half of the hull of a battleship. %10 of that. Oh. Okay, I didn't see that. It's kind of a, yeah, there's a ridge here that was invisible earlier. Yeah, right there. Couldn't see it when it was just primer, but with this paint on it, I want to paint over it so it's more obvious. But there's two pieces back here. Not just one, there's another one here. A very, very ill-defined ridge here between one and the other. It'll be a little bit challenging to get that line right. You see, that's I mean, it looks black on my monitor, but it's definitely a very nice dark metallic color. Oh, I should paint these guys. The wrist, the forearm, the two-arm armor. I'm going to paint this the dark color too. I think it just looks, richer than steel color. Oh, I was going to file that down and I never did. Well, now it's a feature of the armor. There. There's metallic colors on the thing here. big block of wasted paint. Okay. So I'm going to hydrate here a second. Have some more annoying chewing sounds. Peanuts. And while I wait for this to dry, take a moment and clean the cap of this bottle, because this is the one of the badly colored, weirdly colored paint. And so much paint buildup on the rim that I can't close the jar. Built up on the rim and the threads of the jar. See how much there is. And when it builds up like that, can't close the jar all the way. The solvent starts to evaporate. The paint goes bad. I bought these big jars because when we were painting dungeon tiles, we'd go through a lot of one color. Way more economical buying the big jars than the little ones. But if I'm not painting dungeon tiles, I'm not going through it that fast. And then stuff like this happens, where it turns into something else. It's something to do while I'm waiting for paint to dry. Otherwise, it would just be, listening to music, watching paint dry. And I'm waiting for, since this is going to be open, well, there's a lot on the threads here. That's why, another reason why the cap was sticking so badly. And since this color is open, I'm going to go ahead and use it to paint the base of the ogre thing, whatever it is. The green thing with the red face. Base of it is going to be painted this color, and then I'm just going to wash it with the brown wash. There's a lot of it in there, so it's going to stay viable and liquid long enough to let the base dry enough to, it doesn't have to be completely dry because I want it kind of speckly looking anyway, but it'll be dry enough that I think I can use that wash without wasting more. There, there's all that paint that was just built up on the cap and keeping it from sealing. Not from going up on the ceiling. That would be silly. It could go on the ceiling. I could just splash it up there and then it would be on the ceiling. But that's not the ceiling I'm talking about. I'm talking about the other homonym. Sealing as in becoming closed or tightly closed or sealed, which in turn has nothing at all to do with the animal, the seals. Kind of the weird thing about the English language, right? Other languages too, but then you talk about sealing and sealing and then being totally different things. One a verb about closing tightly, and the other one a noun about the thing over the top of a room. Yeah, well, we could just go on and on about dumb stuff like that on this stream because maybe the music isn't enough. No, I'm just going to keep using this brush. It's just working pretty well today, so let's see if it continues. Oh, the toenails. See how nicely that closes now? Yeah, there it goes. I was going to paint the toenails. Somehow painting them dark gray doesn't seem to be... What else? I mean, it's not going to have red toenails, I don't think. It could have really dark green toenails. Yeah, it could have really dark green toenails. and I just happen to have paint that says dark green. How about that? Just sort of piling up here. This is another one where there's a paint buildup, it seems. Not too bad, though. Use the little bitty brush. And let's just take a chance and do this without the head magnifiers. Yeah, I don't know. Like dark green, why not? But I think that's better than like painting them black or gray. Just stay in the color palette, right? And if I do this now before I do the base, I can get it all over the base, not have to worry about it, because that'll be painted that brown color. Yeah, you can't see them. I mean, you can see it's a darker color. That's just the point, is for them to, be a different color than the rest of it. A big deal about it. I doubt that this guy gets a pedicure, so. Question about them being like nail polished, some like orange or something like that. I'm just making them a different color so that you can see that they're there and see that the painter noticed that they were there and painted them a different color. That's all. That's the only thing I'm doing here. I'd kind of forgotten about it, and then I remembered just in time to get it done before I couldn't get it done. Better to remember just in time than just too late. And it could have been that. Yeah, I mean, is anyone ever going to notice that the toenails are painted dark green? I don't think so, but I know that I did what I needed to do to enhance the color of this beast's toenail claw things. Good enough. Actually, it turned out okay. The brown wash ended up looking okay on that. I mean, there might be a few places, where I might want to put a little bit more, like around those. Maybe I'll do that. Let's use this little bitty brush. Let's put some extra wash here. Highlight the muscles in its arms. Yeah, just that kind of little dithing around might make it look a little bit better. Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out when it dries. Not hurting it. Let's put this back. What's this guy doing? Put the other color on. Let's see how it looks. This is dark. This is made in Europe, so it's not aluminum, it's aluminium. Okay, these are all aluminium colors. There's dour aluminium, dark aluminium, white aluminium, and just plain old aluminium. All designed for model airplanes, which were made out of aluminium and duraluminum, and slightly different shades assist in highlighting different panels on the plane, like the control surfaces, the ailerons and elevators and rudders might be made out of a slightly different material than all the rest of the stuff, and so it would be a different color. Or there might be some access panels that are made out of a slightly different material, you know, and so it'd be a different color. Squeeze out nearly as much as I did the steel, because that would just be wasting it. Let's do that. I can, that'll end up being 2 drops will be enough. Start at the front here. Okay, I'm going to have to put these on. I can't really see. Need the extra light as well as the magnification. Paint down here and see how it looks. Definitely look better. Highlight these ridges. If I were able to highlight those ridges in that red color. But I just don't know. I don't think I can pull it off without really just making a mess of everything.
I think I'm going to push my luck on this model. Just just go with the two colors. Not try to push it too hard. They're getting real fancy and then taking something that was okay and turning it into a mess instead. I'd rather have it be okay than to have to essentially start over. There's a couple spots up there that didn't get covered though. Decent touch up on that. To the next chunk of armor here. Over the edge a little too much. But I have to do some touching up with the steel color anyway. So I can clean up that edge. See where the lighter colored paint went over the edge too much. Part of it is just because of the way it's very, very liquid. I mean, very, very thin paint. There's a lot of solvent in it, and so it will run. Just come back, and painting up to a ridged surface like that is fairly straightforward compared to some other things. Fix that when I do the steel touch-up, which I need to do because I missed some spots right on the front. To touch up the brown there and even the red. Banded look will be okay. Yeah. It was going okay, and the whole thing just slipped in my hand. You will touch up along the ridge. So, yeah, Ding Dong School, Romper Room. I was talking about that and then stopped talking about it because I started doing this. And especially, like, Romper Room was kind of fun because you had do bees and don't bees. And you wanted do be a do be, don't be a don't be. At least that was pretty consistent, right? That's why they called them do be and don't be, because the one you wanted to be and the other one you didn't. And there were little bees, pictures of bees, because why not? They were do be and don't be. Okay, there's that. That's how the armor looks. And you can see that, depending on how the light hits, the contrast between the two colors is either very, very subtle or really pretty strong. It really depends. And so I kind of like how that looks. I've done it before several times when you get this kind of alternating plate kind of thing going on, is to do that with the paints. Need to let it dry just a little bit before I fix that and that. See if I can get this clean. I'd like to do that touch up right away and just get it over with. It dries pretty quickly, so I think by the time I get whatever color paint is out of this brush, agitating it in a jar like that makes any difference or not. But you can just see that this, especially at the base of the bristles, this holds a lot of paint. Easing it out like this, trying to keep it from getting gummed up. And the water, I end up using the isopropyl alcohol because it just is a better solvent. Okay, I'm going to keep this up front here because I might need it after I touch up the steel. I'm going to just do that now since there's plenty of it here. Let's touch it in the tip of the brush. Yeah, my bristles have turned into like 3 brushes instead of 1. Down the side of the horse there. And hopefully that will dry to be consistent with the rest of it. Is there anything on the front one? There were some spots here that didn't get painted the first time. Okay, well, I think the bandit armor came out okay. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can see it, but it almost looks Damascus, and I can't say it. Whatever. Anyway, because of the way it was printed, there's little swirls on it, so it looks like Damascus steel. That's kind of a cool effect. Why not? Centaur, they can afford Damascus steel. Okay, now I'm going to use the same brush to paint the base here so that I can get around the freshly painted toes. And then I'll wash it in the alcohol again after I'm done, because it'll be all full of brown paint. I was going to decided to use this really crummy, weird colored brown paint that wasn't quite red brown, because I've got it. Why waste it? See, I mean, it'll be just fine for the base, which doesn't have to be the color it claims to be. Yucky brown color. So all the paint that, got splooshed onto the base here gets covered up. Those get separated, so you can see the individual toes and the pointiness of them. Yeah, get near the end and you just want this to be finished, and you have to take some care on the base, otherwise you can just make a mess of things that don't need to be messy. I'll use a slightly larger brush and fill that in when I'm done here. But this brush is working pretty well around the bottoms of the feet and around the toes, so I'll keep using this at least for this part of it. Cat seems to have disappeared. I took my break. and they all went away. So yeah, Romper Room had do bees and don't bees. There was a lot of sort of educational fun and game kind of thing. It's called Romper Room. Whereas Ding Dong School was called School, so that was a much more serious sort of thing. I think it was called Ding Dong because we were called to order with this big bell, big black-handled, silvery colored bell. Ding Dong, it's time for Ding Dong School. Learn things or something. Yeah, that might be good enough. I'm gonna let this. I don't really want to just let that lay there and soak, but I'm going to because it just is. Oh, I forgot. This brush works. Spread this weirdly colored brown paint all over here. It might be an inconsistent in color, but that's okay. Because after I put the wash on it, I want it to look inconsistent in color, so like it's dirt or something and not just brown paint. One of these older things is that can actually paint around the edges. Otherwise, that's the only place I'd be able to hold it. And if I was holding it there, down my hands this way, the odds of getting paint on my hands go from like 95% down to maybe 35. That's right. Captain Kangaroo had, I'm pretty sure it was Dancing Bear, the bear with the big weird round nose. It didn't look much like a bear. But I think that's also the show that had Clarabelle the Clown. It came out in like kind of gray, I don't know, it was all black and white, so who could tell? Kind of like pajama-like clothes. And never talked. It just had, Clarabelle the Clown just had a horn. One of those little car horn kinds of things, and that's how they talked, or the equivalent of it, until this was sort of poignant. I don't know if it was sad, I'll say poignant. The very last show, when Captain Kangaroo was disappearing from the air, Clarabelle spoke for the one and only time of the show and just waved, a wave like that. Bye, kids. And that was it. The only words that Clarabelle never got to say. So all these shows were on, and they were kind of like variety shows. The Mickey Mouse Club show had different things on different days. When I was watching, I never really paid attention to which one was which day. I just knew that there was Cartoon Day, and there was Talent Roundup Day, and there was Anything Can Happen Day, which was, I don't know, whatever they had laying around, somebody either was a talent or something. And they showed And every once in a while, I guess, one of the Mouseketeers had a talent that they got to show. They got to sing or play an instrument or something. Somehow they managed to fill a half hour, minus commercials, with not really doing too terribly much. Although on the Mickey Mouse Club show, they had these little short features. There was like Spin and Marty or something, who were sort of like detectives. There was, I forget what it was all about, but there was one about, I remember the theme song. It was gold doubloons and pieces of 8 all belong to Applegate. Why, I don't know. Why did Applegate get to have all the gold doubloons and pieces of 8? But, they give it away at the very beginning, as they found the chest where the gold doubloons and pieces of 8 were supposed to be, and it's empty. So it's like, but wait, which happened to rhyme with Applegate. That was handy. And it rhymed with 8, so we kept the rhyme thing going with Applegate and weight and 8. It's probably why the Applegate was named Applegate, so it rhymed with 8 and weight. But they open the chest and it's empty, so it's like, where are those gold doubloons and pieces of 8? And in every episode, I think, was, a search for them. I really don't remember very well whether they found them or not. So, sure that you can still get these things, because the internet has everything. You can find out if they ever found the gold doubloons and pieces of 8 or not. Okay, well, I'm waiting for this to somewhat dry before I put the wash on it. I'm going to take this color that I said I was going to use for the shaft of the spear. Why didn't I? Man. Well, the metallics are still good. Paint the spear, right? Should I paint the spear? I want to paint the spear this lighter color. Lighter of the two, rather than the really dark. And I can maybe later use some black wash on it, just to give it some texture. But it made sense that since I had the metallics out, that I should actually paint the metallic part, right? And now it is. Such a deal. Well, the shaft of this comes right up to the horse's body in a couple of places, and the armor even, which makes it just challenging enough to be a pain. I have to complain a lot on this show, especially after break. I come back after break. Maybe I had a little bit of a snack. In this case, I brought it down with me and haven't gotten very far with it. Start getting a little bit of a sore back. So this is the part of the stream where I get to complain just a little bit. Everything. Yeah, just complain about everything. Surface, see if I can make a mess. I'm going to use this little bitty brush to paint the areas that are in contact with other colors. And I already have, remember when I used the wrong red? Is on the brown of the horse, so we need to touch that. Spin and Marty was the same as the gold doubloons and pieces of 8, or whether that was something else. There was one that was sort of a Western thing. I think that was Spin and Marty, with horses and a dude ranch and that kind of stuff. Can't recall them. I just remember there was a Spin and Marty thing. There was an Applegate gold thing. We never did see Applegate. I don't know what happened to Applegate. All the gold doubloons and pieces of 8 that were no longer there belonged to the Applegate. So I would think that if they ever found them, knowing that they belonged to Applegate, because it said so right in the theme song, so there's no ambiguity about ownership, right? They can't claim that they can't claim ignorance, and they try to make off with these gold doubloons and pieces of 8, assuming they ever find them. So there's that. I don't remember, there must have been some other ones too, because they had to fill the time, and there was only so much stuff you could do with the Musketeers. I remember on Talent Roundup Day, when they did that, they had this lariat thing, and they did the whole Western shtick on Talent Roundup Day. And they had people there and they were always little kids that were the same age as the Musketeers. Mouseketeers, not Musketeers, Mouseketeers. And some would dance, and some would spin a rope, do the lariat thing. Maybe someone would juggle. I don't remember if there was much singing and dancing. There probably was some dancing, from time to time. Someone would play a guitar. I remember once somebody was yodeling. Of course they did, being not as creative as you might really expect. Sometimes they did teach me how to yodel, as this person was yodeling. For some reason, I remember my dad said, "Oh, why don't you try it?" Because they were doing it on the Mickey Mouse Club, we should do it too. So we were encouraged to try to yodel. It wasn't really any fun. It's like, why? What's the point of learning how to yodel? And the best thing that could possibly happen would be that you could become a yodeler, and if they ever did a reprise of Teach Me How to Yodel on the Mickey Mouse Club, maybe you could be the yodeler there instead of who it was doing yodeling the first time. One thing I do remember, though, about Talent Roundup Day, I always thought this was really kind of dwarfy. That's a word. Or doofus or dumb is they got to be an honorary Mouseketeer. Something about here's your something, here's your ears, you're an honorary Mouseketeer. But the ears weren't just like the regular black ears. There were these white, shiny, sequined kind of things, and it's like, if I'm going to get a set of mouse ears, why would I want some that were just all white and sparkly? I would want like the same kind of ears that the Musketeers were wearing, right? Just guess that was because they weren't a real Musketeer. They were just an honorary Musketeer, and so they got the honorary Musketeer ears. Distinguished them from the real ones. They were silvery sequined ears. But what that did for me is it said, I don't want to develop a talent that could get me onto the Mickey Mouse Club, because I don't want these stupid looking silvery ears. What was I going to do? Go on the show and go right there and say, I don't want these. I want real ears. I want the real black mouse ears, not these sequined ears. That wouldn't be welcome. And back then, that's not the kind of thing people did. You just graciously accepted your silly looking sequined ears, took your yodeling and went home. That was it. I don't know if you ever had a career again. I don't know what the yodeler ended up doing. I think it was a female. I think it was a girl. I don't know what happened to her in the rest of her life. She knew how to yodel, and she yodeled on the Mickey Mouse Club. That's pretty good on your resume back then. But what do? You aim for the Ed Sullivan Show, maybe? Or one of the other variety shows. Milton Berle, Joey Bishop, they all had variety shows. Maybe you could get on one of those. The big time would be the Ed Sullivan Show. That would make you as good as the Beatles if you could get on there, or even better yet, Topo Gigio. Right up there with Topo Gigio if you could take your yodeling from the Mickey Mouse Club to the Ed Sullivan Show. That's a good color red. I'm glad I'm doing this red instead of the lighter red that I mistakenly used early on. It's rich red. Good spear shaft there. Do with this. I'm gonna use the steel on this, the darker metallic, and I'm gonna paint the edges. Let it kind of go on to the rest of it. Maybe I'll try doing that too. Nope, that didn't work. There's kind of a raised thing in the center, and that just didn't work at all. I'm gonna forget that ever happened. That looks okay. Yeah, what's next? I'm gonna go back to Ogre Guy here, and I'm gonna finish the base by putting some brown wash on it. I still got a bunch of brown wash left here, so I'm just gonna start smushing it on. That to look uneven. kind of like it's dirt, right? So I'm just sort of dabbing it on, maybe, letting it puddle up in places, maybe bubbles. It's kind of like the more uneven, the better. Do it around the edges too, because those will show. After I'm done with this, I'm going to check the time and see how much time is left, because to decide what to do with the Centaur. I got a bunch of brown touching up to do. The base coat, there's just a lot of spots that need respotting. Yes. Oh, yeah, it is. It's almost time to wrap up. Maybe I'll see if there's time to do this or not. What did I do? It's like I got like a fingerprint on there or something. Wow, weird. I mean, really odd. I did. I touched it. Somehow or other, I managed to touch it right here. Get it on one of my fingers somewhere, and then got it all over the horse. Yeah, I'm going to save the brown touch up until later. There's just too much of it. And what I am going to do, there's little spots of this red-brown touch up. There's not too much of this. It's just like the hooves and the tail and stuff. But there's a spot right on the top of the head that didn't get painted. Seriously, how could I miss that? There's a lot of this regular brown touch-up all over the place that needs to be touched. There's just too much of it, and it's too close to the end of the stream. It's going to take me more than the time that's left to get that done. So I'm not going to. I'm going to leave well enough alone. Take off. I keep dumping that spear. I broke it off once and cemented it. It's like almost 3 times now. I've almost busted it again. There. I'm going to wrap up the stream here by reviewing what has been accomplished and what yet needs to be done. The thing that has been accomplished is I made just a real mess of my work surface here. There's just stuff all over the place. I didn't put things carefully away so that they're all kind of in the way. But I finished whatever this ogre thing is. I don't know what it is, but the pictures I saw said it was green with there's always something. In this particular case, it's like an area that needed some wash put on it. Kind of modeled yucky green color with a red face. So now it's got a red face, and it's got fangs and yellow piercing eyes, and that's it. There's that. So this thing is done. For better or worse, it is what it is, and I don't know what that is, but it is that. And I'm hoping that the red face thing was not just something that I think I'm remembering, but something I actually did remember. But that's what I recall. So that's how I painted it. And then I got, I'd say, quite a bit done on the Centaur. There's a lot of touching up to do on the horse body, but once that's done, then I can get the ink out, the smoky ink, which is a nice reddish color, and that body of the horse will turn from that color to this kind of chestnut color, really nice dark. It's going to look really good and not flat like it is now. And then I'll do that to the tail, of course, and this guy's hair. And then I've got the body to do. And on Monday, when I get back to this, I'll decide how to do that. Right now, I really don't know, so I've left that to the end. But I think the armor came out okay. I think the metallic stripy thing that I've done before looks pretty good on this model. The horse body will look like this, like I said, so it's going to be much richer and browner and darker. And then I'll figure out what to do with the body there. That was one of our dungeon tiles. Let me put my real glasses on. Let me just show that to you since I've got 5 minutes left. Dice and Dungeons started out doing this painting down here because we were just painting the dungeon tiles for the dungeons that we use on our stream. And we got some stone ones. I like these because they're wood, and the wood looks good and stucco, and these are printed on the 3D printers behind me as one solid piece, which is cool. And then they're all hand painted here. This is done with a base coat and a wash, and then that's just base coated, the stucco part. And under this base, which is the only part that's not single piece, are little ball magnets, 2 in each corner, and that allows these pieces to stick together. It's like magic. So you don't have to have a special metallic surface or anything. They just stick to each other, so you can rearrange them however you would like, very easily. So if you've got a lot of these tiles, and why not? You should have a lot of them. You can make all sorts of different combinations. With this wood, you can make taverns and warehouses and houses and wooden keeps and that sort of thing. We have little special features like operating doors. So when you say, I go through the door, or I unlock the door and I open the door, in our stream, the characters, because we have little minifigs for our characters, would open the door. And if they were really clever, whoever opened the door would stand behind the door so that if there's something on the other side, they'd be hidden. And if that other thing came through, you could go, surprise, I got you. Assuming that it was an enemy kind of thing, an adversary. Otherwise, you could come up to it and your adversary could stand behind the door and surprise you if you walked through. So I just wanted to show these off because that's how this stream started, is us painting these dungeon tiles for the D&D campaign and decided to stream it. Why not? And that's why there's Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And don't have any dungeon tiles recently, so I've been painting minifigs like this thing and the Centaur, and there's another Centaur. There's another Centaur that's shooting a bow and arrow. Maybe I'll do that. I don't think that's even been primed yet. I just noticed it. There. And I'll be part of the big Centaur family. Between now and then, whenever that might be, them being Monday, I guess that's when that would be. You can see the difference between primer color and this one, and maybe do the same sort of thing. Maybe this will be a gray horse, kind of gray with a darker tail. And then the armor, I might do, the same sort of thing because they're on the same team. Not sure. Find out. But there's a bow and arrow instead of a spear. There's stuff that has been relaxingly painted on Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons on this Friday. If you have the weekend off, have a good weekend. If you have to work over the weekend, thank you very much for doing that on behalf of those of us who aren't working over the weekend. And I hope that if you have, an alternate weekend, that you enjoy that when it comes around. Otherwise, join us on Sundays at 2 to watch our D&D campaign. Become a follower, become a sponsor. You can go to patreon.com/diceanddungeons, patreon.com/diceanddungeons, and support Dice and Dungeons by becoming a patron, which would be a really cool thing. See you next week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday next week from about 10 until 2. Be painting minifigs on Monday and working on submarine missile launching tubes on Sub Wednesday. Thanks so much, and see you then.